My name is Zeenat. It's Persian. My mom when she was pregnant with me, she was bedridden for most of her pregnancy, and so she was reading a book about Genghis Khan. And in there was a story about this garden that was created, and it was named Zeenat Tunisa. So she insisted on that name. It means woman of adornment. And I grew up hating my name, of course, because it's so difficult and has way too many letters. So it was shortened to Z, and now I go by Zeenat. Most people call me Zeenat. So Zeenat or Z, whichever you're comfortable with is fine.
Okay. I like Zeenat, actually. I think it's pretty. Very
Thank you.
cool.
Thank you.
So, and where do you come from?
I'm originally from South Africa.
Okay, nice. Nice to see you here.
Yeah.
That's a long way.
It is a long ways, yeah. 24-hour flight to get there. It's quite a journey to go back and forth, so it's not something that we do very often, and quite expensive. So.
And what made you choose Canada to live?
Well, South Africa has a history of apartheid, which is systemic racism. It was formed as part of the government to segregate people, and so my parents were revolutionaries fighting against apartheid, and were exiled. So they came to Canada seeking political asylum, and they came as refugees way back in the late 60s. And I stayed in South Africa because it was so volatile for them. So I stayed in South Africa until I was 10 years old, and then my mom came in and did a cloak and dagger into South Africa to come and get me. And so I came when I was 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Powerful.
Yeah, it was quite the journey. It was very different back then, right? I came many moons ago, so 77 is when I arrived in Canada. And I've really been back and forth over the years, so I really feel like I'm South African Canadian, Canadian South African, whichever way you want to say it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're both, right?
I am, absolutely.
Yeah, and you don't need labels, actually, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So you came with your parents at the time?
Well, my parents were here already, and then my mom came to get me,
Got you.
and she brought me here to Vancouver.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice. Do you have any siblings?
I don't. I'm an only child, so
Did
yeah.
you stay there for yourself?
I didn't. I stayed with my family. Yes, with my grandparents raised me. So yeah. So I have really good memories of being raised in South Africa, and I have great memories of Canada as well. So,
Whereabouts in South Africa?
in the big city of Johannesburg. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I've never been there, but it looks pretty by the pictures. I have a friend who lives there.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
like, it's amazing.
Yeah, Johannesburg's very much an industrial city.
But like I think the surroundings, because she's always like going somewhere that's so pretty.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it doesn't take long to get out of the city and then be in nature, and we have the game reserves, and yeah, Cape Town, which is at the western tip of South Africa, is absolutely stunning, and it's the twin city of Vancouver because it looks very much like Vancouver, and the people are very much like West Coasters, I guess, right? So yeah, and Cape Town is, it's beautiful, absolutely stunning. The weather's not the same as here, but
Yeah, it's funny because it's the thing we say about Rio de Janeiro, that it's like the twin city of Cape Town and Vancouver, because it's like the mountains and the beaches.
Absolutely.
Of course, the weather is like nothing compared.
very different, right? Yeah, it's on my bucket list to go to Rio one of these days.
Not
Yeah,
now though.
not now, no. I don't think any of us are traveling at this point in time, but
No,
yeah.
yeah. So okay, do you know of about the challenges that your parents faced when they came, or you yourself, like when you
I
came?
mean, my dad definitely. My mom came here very young. She was, newly married and came here, and it was quite a struggle for her to adapt. For my dad, he was a teacher before he left South Africa, and he came here, and I know that he worked a few different jobs. His main role was to come to Canada to establish an office to promote, well, I wouldn't say promote, but to bring awareness of apartheid in South Africa. So he had a big task, and of course it wasn't paid for, so he had to find other work, and he worked as an ESL teacher actually, and he also had a travel agency, so you know, many roles, many hats.
Yeah.
And my mom didn't work for a long time, and then she eventually found work at the Bay or Sears, I can't remember, in the makeup department.
That's
So,
nice.
yeah, so yeah, it
So
was,
they already spoke English, right?
I think it was absolutely, it's a huge benefit to have a language when you move to a country and you can speak that language.
Because you already have the cultural shock.
Absolutely.
And then, like, cultural shock with the language is like...
Oh yes, I can't imagine how difficult it must be. Like, that's such a challenge. I actually went and lived in Tanzania for a year, and not knowing the language was very, very frustrating and scary and difficult. So I can kind of relate to that.
Yeah, it is. But, well, I'm learning English.
Your English is, yeah, I wouldn't know that you were just learning it, so.
Well, we're always learning, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And how about yourself? I know you came when you were 10.
Yes.
But do you think like you adapt very well, or you have any challenges?
I mean, I learned to adapt well. I came here, my mom was living in Burnaby North, and I came from a community in South Africa where I was very, very protected. But at the same time, I was a witness to a lot of racial crime. And so when I got here, I just imagined that it would be completely different. And at that time, it really wasn't. I was in grade 5, and I was basically the only person in the school that was a person of color. So for me, coming from an apartheid system and going into a school where I was the only person of color, I felt very awkward. And we had so many issues. We had somebody come and kill my bunny. We had an incident where I got up in the morning, I got ready for school, I opened the front door to leave, and there was this thing on our porch. And I screamed, it looked hideous, and I screamed for my mom, and my mom came, and we phoned the police, and it was actually a head of a donkey, and people had written in blood, "Paki, go home." And I didn't even know what that meant. So it was just this constant barragement of racism. And then we eventually moved from there. We moved to East Vancouver, which is a lot more multicultural. But even in my grade 6 class, my teacher, because we're Muslim, she started her morning classes with a Bible study, and so she would tell me to leave. And so I'd stand outside for the first 20 minutes of the class because I wasn't, it wasn't a faith that I shared in. And she didn't see that it would be of any benefit to me. And I don't know if she did it maliciously, but it felt very isolating as a young child, being completely isolated. Yeah. So, when I got to high school, I was always kind of made aware of how different I looked. From body parts looking different to my hair. So little innuendos, little things that were said to me. So I always grew up kind of feeling not beautiful as I am, and not really accepting who I am because I felt different. And then going into university, I moved to Ontario, to Toronto. My dad lived there, and of course Toronto was very, very multicultural, very diverse, and I loved it. And it helped me to kind of find myself and open up and be accepting of myself. Whereas here it was a real struggle. At that time, Vancouver wasn't a very diverse community, and so it was always a struggle. when I moved here, I then moved on to go back to South Africa after apartheid was dismantled and we were allowed to return. So I went there for many years. And at some point I decided to come back. And even within the last 5 years, I was in a job where, you know, we were doing an event and the manager said, well, do you think you could like straighten your hair? It looks really nice when it's straight. And so even then there was this, you know, this thing of you're not okay the way you are. You can improve by doing these little things. So it's, you know, it is the reality that I think many people face in Canada still today. So we have lots of work to do still.
I know, I'm sorry you've been through all of this. And I think it just made you stronger.
Yeah.
But I'm really sorry you had to do it.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's who I am today. It's become part of who I am. And I think that it lends itself to understanding people that I meet. A lot better and looking at people and meeting people and looking at them at face value and not having expectations of them because those expectations were put on me. So, you know, people get confused when they meet me because if I've sent them an email or something like that, and then they meet me, they're like, oh, you sound like a Canadian. Like, well, I am Canadian. And so, yeah, there's always been that kind of underlying current of racism that is very subtle, but it's there. Whereas in South Africa, it's in your face.
Yeah.
Even today, it's, you know, apartheid has been dismantled, but that democracy is still in need of much growth. And so, you know, you constantly having to deal with that and weigh that out and navigate through that in conversations and amongst people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're right. We have a lot of work to do. Well, we're doing our littles.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Planting a seed, but
yeah. Absolutely.
I've been called exotic a lot of times.
Oh,
like,
yes.
What is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I really think it just make us stronger. And
yeah. Absolutely. And I think it lends itself to us being more understanding of the people that we come across, right? And really, like, I've taken all of those experiences and, you know, for a lot of the time I felt very displaced, like 1 foot here, 1 foot in South Africa. When I'm there, I miss here, and when I'm here, I miss there, and I don't quite know where I fit in. For many years, I felt very unsure of myself, and so it's taken a lot of work to get to that point of I'm who I am. I don't belong to any particular class or color or creed, or I just am Z or Zeenat or Zeenat to Lisa, whichever you prefer to call me. It doesn't matter, it's still me. And that's, for me now, living here and really, you know, being involved with newcomer youth, which is what I do at the school district. That's what I try and give them is you have your own superpowers, and what are they? And be proud of them. And that's who you are. It doesn't matter where you've come from, right? Your history and your experience in life is what you are today, right? And take the best of it.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. Actually, the name of this project, I had so many names before I came to Nice to Meet You. It was Heroes Next Door because of this. Like, I think all immigrants have some, like, the diversity is a superpower.
Absolutely.
Like being new, being from somewhere else, and having other experiences is a superpower.
Absolutely.
You have a different view, and you can improve the ways things are already there, established. Right?
Yes, we have the opportunity, if we can embrace it more, we have the opportunity to just build from there so much. Such diversity, such eclectic power, right? And, you know, one of the, like, usually in the third class that I facilitate newcomer youth, and it's about building blocks towards employment. But I find that We spend a lot of time in exploring. And so a lot of them come to me not knowing what they want to do or where to go next, because most of their skills have not been recognized from what they've worked from before. And most of them are quite young. So we start off with something called career explorations, and usually by the third class, I get them to sit around and we share stories. So I say, share a story that shows us how you went through something really difficult and how you came out of it. And I get everybody else, and whatever they're comfortable with, and so I get everybody else, as the person shares that story, to write down what they see as phenomenal, right? And I call it their superpowers. You have superpowers within you that you don't even recognize and know about. And first of all, the stories are just unbelievable. Like, to hear what they've gone through at a young age, like 19, it just blows my mind. And it's about drawing out, helping them to draw out and look in the mirror and say, wow, this is what I've done. This is what I'm capable of. This is what I've already experienced, and this is what I bring to the table anywhere I go. And it's the thing that is a really, really powerful class, and it's very emotional for most of them. And I make sure that they're comfortable sharing that, but it's life-changing for them a lot of the times, because they don't see, you're going through something. You don't realize or recognize how much it took for you to come to a place like Canada and to not know the language. And the strength, like you said earlier, right? The strength to know that, and the determination and the persistence and all of those things that you have already exhibited have come from just that one thing, right? And so they're amazed. And they don't see it in themselves, because they're just living, they're just doing what they need to do to get, to survive, or to get from one day to the next, right? So yeah, it's powerful.
Amazing your work.
I love it.
Yeah.
I really love it. I miss it being around, like right now, we're always on Zoom and the dynamic isn't quite the same. But it is what it is, so yeah.
Okay, do you want to talk to us about the object you brought with your family?
Sure. So from what we've already spoken about, kind of my history. My parents were very involved in the anti-apartheid struggle here in Canada. They built awareness around Canada, both from a government level and to grassroots levels. They helped form organizations, and the pillar, I would say, of that is what they call the Freedom Charter. And the Freedom Charter is basically, it's a document that was created by many different South Africans as a vision for what they want to see the future of South Africa to look like. And so I have a poster of it. My father was very much involved in creating it. And this poster was designed by an artist in Ontario. No, I think in Montreal, actually. And we sold the posters as part of fundraising to send back to South Africa. And so this poster has been in our family for probably 40 plus years. And my children know it, and it's something that reminds me of the power of possibility when people come together and really focus in and hone in on hope and what we want our future to look like. So, and I think it's cross-cultural in the sense that it doesn't matter what country you live in, the ideas behind it are relevant anywhere. So it sits in my house. It's very old and tattered. At some point I had it was framed in a glass frame, but at some point I've moved so many times, so at some point the glass broke, and now it's just kind of pinned on the wall as a reminder to all of us that these are the ideals that many, many people within my family and within South Africa have lived and died for, and that we still need to keep alive, even here living in Canada, right? The way we treat people, the way we the way we are, right? How we go about our day and how we think, and it becomes part of our experience and part of our work, I think. So it's
very powerful to have this in your family.
It is. I mean, we have, like, my house looks like part Canadian and part South African, whatever that means. But I have, but that is our, and I looked around thinking, what is it here in my home that really represents everything that our family has been through and everything that our family really strives for, and that just bounced out at me. So that's why I brought that.
Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
So, living here, do you have like a special place where you feel that you are home or closer to home in your community you live?
I love our nature here. It's so special to me, and coming from a place like South Africa, which isn't always safe, I'm very close to the Coquitlam River, so I would say that's my place of solitude, even with people around. Like, I love it when it's busy and there's people and people are friendly, and, you know, people have their doggies and you stop and chat, and so I would say anywhere in nature. And now that I'm here in Coquitlam, it's definitely probably the river. Any hiking trails where, you know, you just become part of nature, it makes me feel like home.
Yeah. Amazing, the nature here. Beautiful British Columbia.
Oh, it is so beautiful. Even when it's pouring rain.
It is, yeah. I think it's beautiful because it's always raining, so
it's lush, right? It's so lush.
Yeah.
If you go down to the river when it's raining and it's like wild, and, you know, you block out, it basically blocks out all the other noise, and all you can hear is the river, and it's just mesmerizing for me, and very soothing and healing for me. So, yeah.
Okay, we're getting to the end of our interview, and I'd like to know, in your own experience, is there something you think that we can do as a community to support the future? Like, apart from, you already do like a great job, but something maybe it's a tiny little thing that we do just to support the newcomers and to have them feeling more welcome when they come, to help them to adapt or something like that.
I mean, I think authentic connections are really important. I think there's plenty of resources out there for people to reach and grab hold of, but they're not always enough. I think that when you move to a new country, the one thing you want is connection, real, authentic connection. And I think that the ways that we do that is, well, there's many ways, and I'm sure there's many that I can't even think of that would work, but some of them would be food, you know, having community places where people can sit down and share food, or sit and gather together and just have organic conversations. I think that's really important. Or art, you know, places where people can share. Like, I have this idea of an open mic kind of place where people can come and just share their stories, you know. You know, thinking back to our workshop, there was such a connection between the individuals that shared their stories, even though we didn't even physically meet each other. But there was just this organic, authentic connection of, you know, it was so real. And that for me is really important, and I think that that's what people really want. You know, there's lots of resources out there, and they're great. It's not to say that they're not effective, but people need to feel like they are here, this is really home. So I think that would be some of the things that I would like to see, and the ways to do that would be through play, through art, through different types of medium. Food is always a connector. I'm crazy about food. So, you know, for me, I had a bistro in Burnaby for a few years, and it was very South African, and I had writings on the wall from different, like Nelson Mandela and stuff like that, and my Freedom Charter was up there as well. And for me, it was about connecting not only South Africans, but connecting people. Anyone that came in was giving them that storyline of this is our history, this is our fusion, and our uniqueness, and connecting South Africans, because a lot of times South Africans that have come to Canada, they're still very segregated in their viewpoints, and so it was an opportunity for them to come together and share in common things such as our history and food, right? Everybody loves a milk tart, for example, or a South African traditional pie. Like, that's across any culture within South Africa. So I think that's a great way for people to connect.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's why I had this idea of this project.
Absolutely. People, and I think also, I've always been involved in communities, and even in South Africa, the community that I lived in was notoriously known to be very dangerous. And it was just a matter of reaching out to the neighbors, getting to know who lives across the street from you and next door to you, and breaking down the walls. And we had, like, on Earth Night, we had a community tea where everybody just brought their stuff. We turned off all the lights, and everybody brought something, cups, chai, whatever, and we got to know each other, and we got to exchange numbers, and we created this safe community just within our street where everybody knew each other, and so everybody was able to have authentic, real connections with each other. And that the dynamic of the whole neighborhood changed because of that. Up to today, it's still a very different neighborhood compared to anywhere else you might go in South Africa or Johannesburg.
It's amazing. We should do something like that too.
I would love to.
Well, maybe it's planned.
It is. It is. Well, I mean, they have things here like, you can go, I think the city of Coquitlam or Port Coquitlam has these community things where you can get like an allowance of, I don't know, $150 or something, and you have like a little community event, and they give you money to help support that. Now, of course, it's not happening, and so I've been part of those before, and when I lived in Coquitlam. So yeah, things like that, just having things happening in the streets and people feeling like they can break down those walls and really connect with each other. So yeah, my house in South Africa was like, I always used to say I should have put a revolving door on it. And even though I had like a gate in the front, it was always open. I always had little tables. I had markers and all sorts of things, so the kids would just come across the road and sit down and start doing art. And I had ladies coming over and saying, Z, can you help me with my resume? I'm applying for a job. What should I wear? And we were probably one of the few people in the neighborhoods that had access to, like, we had a printer and we had Wi-Fi and stuff like that. And so people always were in and out of our house because that's what you do to build community, right? We actually got this massive snakes and ladders game that, took up the whole street. And so we'd put pylons, cones on the road so that the cars couldn't come down our road. And all the kids in the neighborhood would go and we'd play this, massive snakes and ladders game. And so there's many things that you can do to bring people and communities together. And it's just about finding like-minded people to get it going. And this initiative, it's a starting point. It's an amazing starting point, and I hope and want to see how it's going to grow. I'm excited to watch and to be part of it too.
Me too, and I'm so glad you came and shared your story. It's an amazing story.
Thank you.
And have this connection is just like what I wanted.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. It's really exciting.
Okay, so to finish, I would like to ask you if you can, our project name now is Nice to Meet You.
Yes.
So if you can say this name in your mother tongue or something, Nice to Meet You.
Okay, so I was thinking about that, and it's like strange because South Africa has 11 official languages.
I know, that's why I thought, like, I don't know if it will work, but maybe it will. Do you speak Xhosa?
Xhosa? No, I don't. No, I know little words here and there, but I think for me, growing up in a Muslim community, I would say the way that we always greet is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And it means, may peace, mercy, and blessings be with you. In other words, you are safe when you are with me. And so I think for me that resonates the most. Yeah, that's how we still greet today, and that's, many people in South Africa will greet each other in that manner, whether they're Muslim or not, just because it's got such a powerful message behind it, that sense of safety and security, that for me, that's what I want to see here. I want people to be able to, and I'm diverting a bit, but I think that for me, growing up in Canada, it was really difficult to be Canadian because people have this perception of what Canadian means. And I think if we can change that perception and we can advocate and kind of accept that Canadian is unique and diverse, and we can see the strength of that diversity, then we're truly embracing what it means to be Canadian. So it doesn't matter about an accent or how you look or any of that. That Canadian means that you are part of this wonderful country and willing to do what needs to it takes to make it acceptable, right? Accepting of everyone.